stimulus checks for millions of Americans from President Donald J. Trump and this administration. And the biggest question is that why suddenly President Trump started talking about these checks, and is he really going to send these checks to Americans, and why there's a need of sending these checks? Well, look at this. Administration hints furlough workers may not be paid after shutdown. Can you imagine? These people who are not being paid but still they are working. Yes, some of them actually said that no, we are not going to work because we are not going to get paid. But air traffic controllers, people who work at the airport and in many government offices, they are still working and they know that they are not getting paid, but they have a hope that when this government shutdown ends, they will be paid. But now, what's going on? Why the administration is sending these hints that no, we are not going to pay these furlough workers? Well, at the same time, look at this. President Trump proposes new stimulus checks of up to $2,000 for Americans. And once again, President Trump said that this time I'm thinking about giving $1,000 to $2,000 worth of checks to Americans. And if you remember that few months ago, Josh Hawley came up with a proposal and he said that $600 stimulus check will go to millions of Americans under the Americans Worker Rebate Act. But we finally received some very important details about these stimulus checks, or you can call them Trump dividend checks, to almost every low-income Americans as well as for middle-income Americans who make $100,000 and less. Before we go into the details, all I need is just a little favor. It takes 2 seconds to please hit that like button on this video. So without any further ado, let's begin. So in order to understand the reality of these $2,000 checks from President Trump, first we need to get into the details of these checks. Tariff truth behind brand new $600 stimulus check to working Americans and their children after zero clarity. Well, multiple tariff amounts have already been suggested this year. If you remember, a few months ago, President Trump announced the possibility of some sort of stimulus or dividend check. Well, he called them tariff rebate checks for Americans. And then right after that, with the approval of President Trump, Josh Hawley presented a proposal known as Americans Worker Rebate Act. And under that proposal, $600 were proposed for every adult, $600 for every dependent, means for every child, and $1,200 for a couple, as well as a maximum of $2,400 for a family of 4. Now, when Josh Hawley introduced this legislation, what happened after that? And you need to understand this very important point. Remember that President Trump announced the possibility of these checks. Josh Hawley came up with a proposal. Now the majority is in the hands of Republicans, so it means that this bill should pass. But you know what happened? A number of Republicans opposed this bill, just like Bernie Moreno. Bernie Moreno said that no, we'll never let this bill pass. This bill will never pass, and I'm going to stop it because US has $37 trillion worth of debt and we are going to pay down the debt first. Now, here is the biggest question. There's a government shutdown right now. No SNAP benefits for 42 million Americans in the month of November. Millions of Americans are not getting paid because of this shutdown. So still, they care more about the American debt than the American people. This is what a number of analysts and experts are saying. But before I even go towards the details of these $2,000 checks that President Trump proposed, I would like to ask you, do you really think that paying down the US debt should be the priority, or giving Americans some sort of relief is the way to go? And do you support President Trump's proposed $2,000 worth of dividend or stimulus checks for millions of Americans, especially in this time of inflation and during this government shutdown? Do you think that it will change anything when it comes to your finances? Well, if you support it, then write in the comment section, I support $2,000 checks. Again, if you support him, then write in the comment section, I support $2,000 checks, because remember, if you don't do anything, nothing will happen. Now, look at this, as this is also very important. Well, recently, President Trump said this. President Donald J. Trump has said that he's considering offering Americans stimulus checks of between $1,000 and $2,000 from tariff revenue. Talking to One America News, known as OAN television network, in a one-on-one interview aired on Thursday, Trump was asked what he would do with the revenue generated from higher tariffs on imported goods to the US, and he said this: we are going to do something. We are looking at something. Number one, we are paying down the debt because people have allowed the debt to go crazy. Well, and moving on with more details, he said that his team was thinking about maybe $1,000 to $2,000 worth of checks to millions of struggling Americans and Americans within certain income limit. And in the Josh Hawley's proposal, it was proposed that people who make $100,000 and less are going to be eligible for these checks. Means seniors who receive Social Security, means households with children, means single mothers. Everyone is going to be eligible for this check if a person makes $100,000 and less, just same as millions received during the pandemic. But you need to understand that there's a term known as political stunt, and this is what a number of analysts and experts are saying. If you remember that few months ago, President Trump and Elon Musk actually said that they're thinking about giving Doge stimulus checks of worth $5,000. Now, I would like to ask you, what happened to those checks? Well, the answer is nothing. It was a political stunt, and yes, there was no check given to Americans, and literally that Doge checks became a laughing stock. Then Josh Hawley's proposal came, and he said that now we are thinking about giving $600 to Americans, means for adult and dependents, for a couple, as well as for a family of four. What happened to that proposal? Even Republicans are opposing that proposal. And then now suddenly President Trump started talking about $2,000 stimulus check, which is great, to be honest, because now after these elections, we see that Zoran Mamdani won in NYC, and a number of Democrats won with a sweeping manner, which was quite shocking, to be honest, but they won. Now, what President Trump needs to do? Well, he certainly doesn't need to do anything, because Republican Party is on stake right now. And in order to regain the trust of American people, they need to come up with a relief, and these $2,000 could be that relief that can change everything for this Republican Party, and especially for a number of lawmakers who are in the Congress right now, and especially for President Donald J. Trump. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this whole situation? And if you are one of those people who are struggling, then our heart goes to you. And let's hope that this shutdown ends and people get paid, SNAP benefits gets resumed, as well as millions of Americans get a relief from this administration, such as the proposed $2,000 worth of stimulus checks for Americans. And before I wrap up, I would like to give you a massive opportunity. If you are a senior and you are on Medicare, then do you know that you can save around $1,100 when it comes to your Medicare plan? That's why I partnered with Chapter, where you can get unbiased help from a real person absolutely free. Call the number on the screen today, 212-461-4492, and get the help that you deserve absolutely free. I'll see you in the next video very soon. Till then, please take care and have a nice day.